Hello and welcome back to the Roll on the Adventure podcast. This is our second half of the fourth session. We are on our Primordia arc, and in the first half we talked about how we would change and how we would edit Primordia, and cue the intro.
Adventure, adventure, adventure,
Roll
adventure,
on,
adventure,
roll
adventure,
Roll
adventure.
on the
adventure.
Oh, that was surprisingly not terrible.
I don't think we're going to be recruited by a barbershop quartet anytime soon.
No,
But it's getting there. You know, we have a shape. I think.
it's when we get us all together in one place and do it live. That's going to be fun.
So yes, this is our second half. We discussed about how we would change Primordia or what sort of games we would like to try out with it in the future.
I think we've got a pretty solid set of changes. We'll get those made and get the PDF ready. Yeah.
Cool. So what is everybody up to these last few weeks? So Purple, what about you?
Oh, I'm not sure if I talked about this because it's been a good couple of months since the last time we did this. But I did JollyCon up in Liverpool. That was really fun. Jolly Boats fan convention. Had a really great time. Got to play. Got to be in a scene of Dr. Magnet Hands that Brett Howard was running. That was really fun, and I ran a game. Well, I ran a session where we created a D&D monster, then made people fight it, and that was really, really fun. Although the fight was very, very rushed. The audience kind of steered me towards making some horrendous rhino canoe hybrid.
Rhino canoe.
It was the horny rhino.
Okay.
And it was in a mangrove swamp.
So was this a workshop, or was this with the audience-based presentation? Like how did
it was a sort of like an audience participation sort of thing where I gave 4 players pre-gens. We got a random audience member, Grant Howitt, and the Jolly Boat tribute band Merry Ferry, who were doing ridiculous Spanish accents, and it was absolutely beautiful because it turned into everybody doing Spanish accents, and I kept slipping into it as well, and it was pretty ludicrous. And they battled this rhino and managed to convince it that life wasn't worth living.
Chris, how has your last few weeks been?
So I've mostly been preparing for AmeCon, so statting up and prepping various games for that, as I'll be helping out in the games room. So by the time this is actually played, I will hopefully be actually playing games with people, or at least teaching them how to play various board games or whatever. Other than that, to be fair, I've mostly just been enjoying the summer weather and walking a lot, which is possibly not the most exciting thing to hear about, and getting various writing things ready for submitting in.
Ooh, what are you submitting?
Wintertime.
Are we just neglecting to mention that at said AmeCon, you and I will be co-hosting a panel?
Oh, yes.
With our friends.
Yes, we will be doing a Q&A gaming panel, which hopefully will be enlightening people about the correct way to have fun, and we will be burning anyone that has fun wrong, because that's what we do.
Good. I'm not on this panel because I'd probably be too dogmatic.
Splitters.
Well, I was quite prepared to invite you to MC it, to manage the questions and so forth, and manage us as the panelists, but you're far too busy at these things.
Yeah, someone needs to actually man the games room while Chris is away. I don't just want to leave Graham on his own.
How many panels are you doing this time, Purple?
I'm just doing the 2. I'm doing my Magical Girl one. I had to can the Mecha one that I wanted to do because it was just too complex. too many moving parts, not enough time to sort them all out, unfortunately.
So you're doing the Magical Girl one, and what's the other one?
I'm doing the Improv Jam. Run an improv
Oh,
jam.
you're doing that again? Okay.
Yeah. It went really well at Kitta, so I'm doing it again. And
Was that the one where I was molested again?
that was a different panel.
Okay.
That was Quantum Bleed, wasn't it?
Oh, yes.
So what games are you running, Chris?
So I've got quite a variety, but probably Made because it's light and fairly easy to run. So for anyone that hasn't played it, it's a fairly wacky anime style game where you play randomly generated maids, in theory trying to please your master, but mostly it ends up being slightly bonkers PvP and random events and dinosaurs happen.
That does happen a lot.
Yes. Shinobigami, which is another translated JRPG, which is PvP ninjas, where it's kind of hidden information-y of you have to form relationships with them, with your other fellow ninjas, and also try and find out what they want, ideally to take them down and win the prize. But I have seen people basically voluntarily lose because that's where the roleplay went. Quite fun. I have a Regency era hack of that, which is people being pointedly polite at each other. So instead of all the damage is reputational rather than physical. So instead of stabbing somebody, you wittily snark at them or whatever.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
I do also have a play test version of the Jane Austen roleplay game, which is very well. It's not PvP in quite the same way, but it's lots of people being witheringly snarky at each other. Probably be doing some Dungeons and Dragons 5th Ed intro games if there's people that haven't played before or people that just want kind of a fairly quick second level game, probably a bit of combat and some role play, nothing too heavy.
Tons of games.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, you're doing tons of stuff.
Yeah. To be fair, a lot of this is stuff that I've prepped for other conventions, so I literally just have a folder of this stuff I can bring out.
Yeah, same. I've got like 3 different folders of just like short games, like single pages, and I've got like folders for other stuff as well. So I've got like one stuff, character sheets, and decided to sling them in and just chuck the books in and go, really.
Yeah, things like Tactical Waifu are quite good for conventions. If anyone hasn't played it, it's literally a single page. You have one stat which measures how tactical you are or how waifu you are.
It's a Laces and Feelings hack.
Yeah, it's very silly. It's not even remotely deep or anything. But for people that haven't roleplayed before or kind of want to just chill out and do some silly stuff for a few hours, you can start playing in like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It's even got a random plot generator for why Senpai doesn't notice you.
Yeah, it's I did play it and I did try to play it straight and it didn't work too well.
You tried to play Tactical Waifu straight?
Yeah, I was gonna be super operator.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like tactics and stuff.
And what, like these are just random PTSD-addled war orphans that all happen to be Japanese high school girls or something?
I know, I was playing, not running.
I suppose you could just run it like the later seasons of Full Metal Panic that are basically military drama, when seasons 1 and 2 were kind of a high school rom-com that happened to feature a mech.
That had some interesting tonal shifts of that show.
Yeah, well, the season 4 came out
Yeah,
not long ago, which I need to actually watch.
No, I'm not seeing
But yeah, so yeah, I've mostly just been prepping for AmeCon and trying to arrange other holidays, but that's very boring personal stuff. So Joel, how's the GMing business going?
It's been a slow start, but it is a definite start. So, I mean, for the sake of the listeners, if anybody lives in the sort of Shropshire area or West Midlands environs, I am actually a dungeon master for hire. I'll be starting my first proper paid gig in August. Oswestry Library picked me up for a couple of games, and I've actually made money in pre-bookings. I know. People are paying me to run games for them. It's incredible. But
that's awesome.
The really interesting part has been sort of going around other libraries, because one of the members of staff at Oswestry approached me, and I've been sort of chatting with her, sort of getting things organized, letting her know what the situation's like with taking bookings. She has already spread my name to every other library in the county. I've been going round to them, introducing myself, and the last response I got was in Ludlow. Oh, it's you. I've heard about you. That came as a surprise, but yeah, otherwise...
Oh, that's nice. And are you running Dungeons and Dragons?
Mostly Dungeons and Dragons. I'm currently in the process of learning heavily Era the Consortium by Shades of Vengeance,
All right.
who I met at UKGE, and they were lovely, lovely people who were very keen on me and what I'm doing, and very keen to help me write some stuff for their system. So I've got one of the designers, Ed Jowett, on Facebook to me on a semi-regular basis, helping me just sort of bounce ideas back and forth. And I'm writing a short campaign, which I'm hoping to trial at CoxCon in Telford, called Ghost in the Shell Company.
Oh, cool.
I'm loath to divulge too many details on the subject because there's going to be a few surprises, and also I'm not entirely certain how well it's going to go, but we'll find out.
Yeah, oh, best of luck for that. That sounds fun.
Yep.
Nice.
Demetrius?
So I've been busy as well. I'm in London, so I've been playing with Roleplay Haven, which is pretty much the biggest club in London right now, and I'm running the second quarter of my Mage the Awakening game, second edition, which is actually going pretty well. I was, it's my first time running second edition, and there were some challenges, but I think it's going brilliantly. I think it's a game that so far has put me into my most extreme preparation schedules more than anything else, because in Mage people can break your game with pretty simple low level experience stuff.
Yeah. Mages can do a lot.
Yeah, like people who can teleport, basically, you have to, I always have to have New York, London, Tokyo prepped for just the random chance that somebody is just going to teleport themselves, and I need information quickly, and that's been challenging me in terms of prep. I always keep a tight ship in what I do. I don't railroad, but I'm very plot heavy, so not very sandboxy game master. So the extreme width of this game has being very has a very good learning curve for me, and I'm actually exploring a website that I also talked about when I did the world building episode. That is World Anvil. It's a good wiki sort of system to do your notes and write about what you're doing, and I'm actually using this to plan my live action role playing game that I want to have around the country in about October.
Yeah, cool.
So yes, it's going to be a Vampire the Requiem live action role playing game, and we'll see how this goes.
Okay.
What do you usually use to plan out, Demetrius? What else would you use?
Mostly I do. I used to do Wikimedia, so the engine behind Wikipedia, but now I use this. I'm a very big fan of pen and paper, obviously, and I'm just jotting down information. The first thing I usually do is try to find the plot line. I do extensive use of proper Wikipedia, obviously, like there's a million tabs full of arcane or occult articles on Wikipedia proper, which is really good for World of Darkness things like ancient Babylonian temples and information, stuff like that. And I do TV tropes as well that has lots of ideas about plots, arcs, useful conventions that fiction writers in all media.
Yeah, TV tropes is really good for that sort of thing.
See, I tend to be, because I'm more sandboxy, I tend to go straight for a one note and I just sprawl out the world as far as I possibly can. And I'm sort of trawling DeviantArt for sort of mood board content and stuff like that. So I'm filling up a world rather than looking for story concepts. And I just dump a bunch of players in the middle and say, here it is, go.
You're gonna love World Anvil.
I'll give it a try, certainly, because you're not the first person to mention it to me.
Chris, what's your sort of prep process like?
Yeah, most of my games tend to be somewhat sandboxy, so it tends to be, well, from the player point of view, here's your initial starting instance, normally with some kind of, something's happened to actually get the players together, get the characters together and give you some impetus to do whatever, like, the evil overlords attacking your village, or great evil is afoot, or even just you need some money to save your village from being repossessed or whatever, and then just have a load of various NPCs and places they can go, along with some vague idea of possibly some cool set piece scenes, which may or may not actually happen. But yeah, I'm quite a fan of like at least some form of collaborative world building with the players, partially because it means they have some investment, partially because it means there's less work for me to do.
Yeah, it is.
I've recently started a D&D 5th ed game where I've got a Trello board where I did some,
nice.
introduction to the world, general themes, and then the other players have kind of thrown in some ideas for, like, one of them's an Azimar, so there's basically haven't really been Azimar before. As far as the character is concerned, he's just an amnesiac human.
Oh.
But there's been, like, mass turbulence in the heavens and the gods have vanished and stuff. So it's kind of, there's clearly stuff going on.
Oh, no, that's cool.
But it just means the players have some level of investment and, actually it's the mysteries they care about.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Because otherwise you can end up kind of with here's a big plot hook and the players are just characters just kind of looking at themselves and going, yeah, but we can make up a reason to be invested, but we're going to have to kind of jump through some roleplay hoops to get there, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
It does. So, do you guys know of the location crafter?
I've not heard of it.
The what, sorry?
The location crafter. So the location crafter is, if you're playing sandbox games, it's a really good product as well. It's a PDF book. Basically, it's a very neat system to create locations on the fly. So it's a system where you pretty much put keywords in tables and you can roll your own, you can have as big or small location as you want. Like you can populate a galaxy sector, or you could populate a room with fittings and things like this.
Cool.
Really cool. It's really cheap as well. I think it's $2 or something like that. It's very accessible.
That's pretty good.
That is interesting. Yeah. Says I'm the one who hasn't gone. I mostly just write some vague notes on index cards and then open up a few cans of Red Stripe. That's pretty much my campaign planning process.
A lot depends on the length of the campaign as well, because the roleplay club I go to, we basically run in either 4 or 12-week sessions. So because the longest campaign I'm going to have to run in the foreseeable future is going to be 12 weeks, it's probably not worth developing an entire world and lots of depth in quite the same depth as Joel might, because your campaigns tend to be significantly longer.
Well, certainly for my home group, yeah. But I mean, obviously, as I'm moving into sort of games for hire, I'm not expecting people to stay with me and like keep paying me for month after month of adventures. So I'm trying to make the move into more episodic style writing.
Yeah. The irony is that I probably write far more for one-shots that I'm running than I do for like for convention one-shots. like for my UK Games Expo ones, I probably got about as many notes for my for like one of the games, and the Cicadas one that I did. I probably got about as many notes for that as I do for my Exalted campaign that's been running a couple of years.
If it's for strangers, you probably want to appear a bit more polished as well. Because if it's just for friends, you can normally go, I didn't think you would do that. Give me a couple of minutes to think of a response.
True.
Whereas, especially in Joel's case, it's probably not entirely professional looking to just go and have a minor blue screen of death as you...
To show up with a stack of index cards and a couple of cans of Red Stripe.
Or you've met programmers, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like, just because if somebody's paying for your time, they probably want to have your time and not you going,
Definitely,
that kind of thing. So you probably want to have at least some mental idea of if the characters do this, this happens. If they do that, that happens.
Yeah. Demetrius, you were going to say something about me moving to episodic campaigns, were you?
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you're doing this, you could still base this on the same world, roughly. So, you can repurpose as much of your work as possible for different adaptations, or perhaps you could, across different libraries, because I know the libraries you've seen now, you can do the same game.
Oh yeah, I've got a few different ideas for how to get adventures all running in the same world. Like I want to do a pay-to-play West Marches campaign, and like as I sort of build up more Era of the Consortium stuff, I want to be building up more and more stuff for that, and have players maybe cross paths with the fallout from another player's game, things like that.
Mm.
Yeah,
The main possible downside of that is just making sure that people don't feel like they're kind of losing to the other groups. Because if it's kind of like, oh, somebody else paid for more sessions, so they got more stuff.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And so when we got to the tomb, it was empty. Although if they're not actually friends or anything, you can always just have the tomb always have stuff in. It's not like they're going to compare notes.
See, what I'm doing for Dragon Meat is I'm pretty much I'm taking the Nobilis game that I ran at Games Expo, and I'm using the same PCs. I'm going to add like an extra option or two, just so there's more choice. But it's going to be basically the same people, same setting, different thing that's going on. Like the first one was them going to a destroyed world on the World Ash to go rescue a power that they thought was dead. And this one's going to be about like a traitor and trying to like track them down and their stolen abhorrent weapon without getting stabbed up.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, it's took me quite a while to work out how I was going to do it. I didn't want to write a whole new game because but I didn't want to just run the same one, because I think one of the players from the one at Games Expo is planning on playing, so I can't just run the same scenario. I got interviewed straight after the game for his podcast, and he's like, "So you're running at Dragon Meat?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then I was like, "Oh crap!" Just signed myself up for something else.
This is Jeremy something. The Rollists podcast, was it?
Which one, sorry?
It was the Rollists podcast, or some Jeremy person. No.
Well, we should sort this out. I've got a business card somewhere. I should have been a bit more professional and dug it out. Yeah. But I think we should go off the topic now before we look really stupid.
No, it's all right.
Still talking role playing. It's still the right topic.
Kind of.
Cool. So next game.
Oh yes. So things we might want to see in the next game. Like, I would like to make a request.
Okay.
And that is, I would like something where we don't have everybody in a lot of the scenes. So it's like a couple of people most of the time. One, that's to make the editing a lot easier. But also, I think it'd be really kind of cool to play with that sort of partitioning of people.
So are the people not in a given scene or whatever they are listening in, or is it kind of
I
a
think that's something
secret
we'd have to work out.
thing?
But I think like having
okay?
sort of partition time, not how to explain it. It's a difficult concept to explain, I think, but it's
Yeah.
like that sort of partitioning, I think, would be really interesting.
Yeah,
Funny you made this request, because I think it connects very nicely with this sort of inspiration I've been having. So when I got this idea about the spy adaptation of Primordia, I can't stop thinking about spy scenes and that sort of concept, which could work really well with smaller groups, like single people or couples, two people anyway, in scenes. So I think that could work in a sense.
Yeah, cool. Is there anything like the cat? So, would you want the spying thing in general? Does that something you'd like to put in?
Yeah, like the whole Cold War or spy, or I don't know if anybody has played the video game Monaco, or Ocean's 11, or that sort of mission-based spy, Black Ops sort of thing.
Okay.
So, given that obviously we're going to be playing over Discord, where it's quite easy to mute people out, are we wanting it to be something? Because if it's something where the other people aren't listening at all, that's easy to do via Discord, but it's a bit inconvenient and impractical to do physically around a table unless you're endlessly sending people out of the room, which is, like I say, a bit awkward generally.
What I'd like to do is 3 GMs, 1 player.
Why?
Because he's a madman.
3 GMs, 1 player. You have 1 spy.
Yes.
1 spy and 3 spy masters.
I'm just trying to think how on earth that would actually work in practical.
I mean, I don't know. But this is the podcast to try it on, right?
So,
I'm not hearing a lot of enthusiasm for that idea.
Because it's basically going to consist of one. It's going to be like the management interview from hell, where you're just giving different lines of made-up shenanigans to 3 people that have no idea what the other 2 have actually asked you to do.
How are you not excited for this?
I have project managers at work. I don't need to deal with that on my own time.
Well, I would agree that there's a place for experimentation. Is this podcast? So if it's possible, I think we're the people who can actually do it.
It's going to be interesting to see how this ends up. Yeah.
Another interesting thing would be to because we mentioned like various technologies for like planning. I think what would be quite interesting would be to try see how we can apply those technologies to playing. Like, can we have a game that's like uses say Google Docs as like as a thing? Like that uses a wiki as a thing.
So non-table oriented role-playing games.
Yeah, I think that's kind of cool. Because it's going to be a bit of a ball ache to get all the typing noise out of people's audio, but I think it could be really interesting to try use some technology, because like I've got like Google Docs on my phone, so even like in a face-to-face game, I can have access to that stuff.
It definitely, if nothing else, just for kind of the modern day equivalent of passing notes. Because obviously play-by-post games have existed for decades at this point. But yeah, with modern tech, there's a lot. You could do lots of different things with it.
Yeah. Oh man, talking of play-by-post though, and not on a modern technology standpoint, I really, really want to play De Profundis.
Is that I used to have a copy of that.
You did? Oh wow.
Yeah, that was the Cthulhu one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's the letter writing one.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. No, I gave it to a friend that said she was going to organise a game. It never happened. But yeah,
I would love to play that. So the idea with it is that you set aside a bit of time. It's got to be letters because that's kind of the point of it.
it's period.
Yeah,
It's like 1920s period, so obviously no emails and all that shit.
but also it's even if you're not playing in that era, it's kind of like the ritual of it. Because the idea is you sit down and you mark each letter with like a sigil or something, or possibly like a small green triangle, and then you know which mail you have to read while you're in your character's headspace. I think that's kind of nice, like that sort of idea. That's what really attracts me to the game. And also the other side of it is that it's about looking for the weird in your actual life, like looking for things that, you know, like imagery and stuff like that you can use. And that's one of the reasons I'd like to play it, because being on the lookout for the mythos in your actual world, that's something that kind of appeals to me. But obviously doesn't work too well on a 2-hour podcast.
Yeah. The actual act of physically writing a letter as well kind of puts you in a different headspace than tapping away into an email or a Facebook message and just flinging that off.
Yeah, like I that's one of the reasons I'd really like to play that.
I've had an idea for a sort of Lovecraftian story for a while now, based on all of the doors you walk past in the average urban space that nobody ever goes through. They're just sort of painted over, or they're in an alleyway somewhere and you never see anybody enter or leave.
Yeah.
So that could be a very interesting sort of forum for that kind of story.
It works. Like, there's so much around. I remember, like, at MCM, I kind of got lost in London, and I was wandering through London at like 4 a.m, and like the sun was like about to come up, and it's just, there's so much scope for urban horror, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there's like so many.
Well, because London's just so
many like liminal sort of abandoned places, and like you know, like so much like weird decay right next to sort of like really new sort of things. It's really interesting, and I would totally like to just explore that. I mean, it did give me a lot of material for my Unknown Armies game.
Well, I was actually wandering around near my offices a couple of days ago, and you've got like all of the old City in the Sky post-war 1940s, 50s flats. And you've got like this massive block of them that are utterly condemned, all boarded up and stuff, next to one single one that's all been refurbished. It's all like fancy modern apartments and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah, it's when you see there's literally this cut-off point where this side is all brightly painted and up to date and new. This side is literally crumbling concrete and probably dangerous because it's just got one of the aerial walkways. It's quite weird to see.
I think juxtaposition is a really interesting thing.
It tends to work well in horror.
Yeah. I mean, is it something we'd like to explore in our next game? Like juxtapositions?
That would work quite well with multiple GMs potentially, if they each had different briefs or different themes they were encompassing.
Yeah, the only game that I can think of that has like multiple GMs, I think it's Coyotes of Chicago. I've never played it though, so
okay.
I heard of it. What's it about?
Yeah,
it's about a biologist trying to like solve something to do with coyotes. I genuinely don't know too much about it, but there's like there's multiple story strands for it.
Okay, and each GM is in charge of one plot thread.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm not sure how it plays. I've never played it, and I don't know anyone that's actually played it. Not that I know of.
Yeah, I can't. Outside of like fairly traditional role-play games where the GM can change, and it'll just be like, this GM is going to be somebody. Bob is going to be the GM for the next adventure. But I can't think of anything that uses multiple GMs.
I did have a game of Roll for Shoes where someone usurped the GM seat temporarily.
That's very Roll for Shoes.
Yeah, I like Roll for Shoes. That game got very strange.
Even by
Roll for Shoes standards.
Yeah.
I've played in a game with two game masters. It was a Star Wars D20 game where we had, two connected parties, sort of light side and a dark side.
Ooh, cool.
And usually each of the game masters would tend to one group, but every now and then we'd have both of them in this sort of configuration. And basically how they handled it is they had different, so they alternated between scenes, or they would one would do NPCs and dialogue, while the other would do environments and dice rolling. So that's how they separated the load. But it was basically most of the time it was just one game master. Occasionally would have the other game master just to be current with what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite cool.
Yeah, I've seen some games where there's been like a dozen players where you've had two GMs just to take care of everything. But there's always been issues where like one group decides to go on a 2-month journey while the other group's doing something now.
Yeah.
And it takes a fair amount of fiddling to keep everybody on the same page, or so people aren't just ignored for ages.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're on about. I've run for 11 players before. It's fine.
It gets harder for longer campaigns as well. But yeah.
Yeah, I've had some very big Exalted games.
Oh god, I think the most I've ever done was like about a dozen, but that was just a one shot. So
I think I had 9 regular players, and then had like some people that weren't there for everything, but were there for like some stuff because they'd played previous arcs of the campaign but couldn't commit.
Okay.
I've played for 13 people at the most, and it was a long campaign. Like it was about a year, and I think it was a time we were in uni and didn't have our schedule was quite different, and we could stay up to 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. playing role-playing games.
Yeah.
And this pretty much made sure that everybody had time in the spotlight, because that's the biggest challenge for me right now is I play for 3 hours and a half, and more than 5 players means that somebody is not going to have enough time to have fun that night. Well, back in that day we could just stay around until everybody had fun, in a sense.
Yeah, just as you get older, being able to schedule time and real life responsibilities can be a bit of a ball ache.
Yeah, it's bad enough trying to schedule this.
Yeah. And, well, yeah.
So how do you see this this 3 game masters 1 player thing?
I very intentionally don't want to try nail it down now.
Prejudice it.
I think that having it just going on the list is a cool thing. We don't have to take it forwards, but we can. But I don't want to say it's this, because I think that kind of limits the amount of design that we can do on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it might just be that we decide that it's not going to work, and then drop it. But that's for the next episode.
So what have we got so far? Some kind of spy, Cold War, sabotage type thing.
We've got spying
and multiple GMs.
Partitioning, juxtaposition.
Okay.
And multiple GMs.
Do we want to start thinking about like dice cards?
I
make
don't
stuff
think
up?
so. That's for next episode,
Okay, we'll do that next.
I think we did mention technology there, didn't we?
Yeah, that we want to see something non-traditional table format.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
I have noticed that
using
out of the 5 that we've got so far, 4 of them and me, what do people want in a game? Like, what would you be interested to see?
I was just going to pitch something that might help tie all of the above together to an extent. I don't know whether any of you guys have watched any of Matt Colville's videos at all, but he talked about a time during his campaign where his main villain was not actually run by himself. He was texting a friend who, like, what was going on in the campaign, and then that friend was playing the villain, was working for their own ends from the other side of the country, and sort of acting as a real person on the other side, opposing the players in front of him at the table.
With a different sort of system, effectively.
Effectively, yeah.
Nice. So yeah, so I follow Matt Colville, but so much of a backlog of videos that, you know, I'm a completionist. I want to see everything. So this basically removes the villain's agency from one of these storytellers, the game masters, and turns another person. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it creates somebody else who's helping run the game, so it incorporates the multiple GM concept. It's using technology to sort of increase the scope of how roleplay can be managed, and it's incorporating the espionage side of things as well.
So we've got like this 1v-many thing. Instead of like the PvP that we had, and unlike collaboration, so there's one person who is against the others, in a way.
Yeah.
That's quite cool.
Chris, put something in the mix.
Oh God.
It's like very direct there.
Yeah.
Spotlight.
Says Demetrius, who's not put in anything.
Kind of appropriate for a spy game of, yeah, suddenly caught in the floodlights. Yeah, probably not. Well, given it's going to be one PC and 3 gems, it's probably, I'm thinking probably not kind of perpetual life or death stakes, because if it's ever death, that kind of means the game ends.
We never know. Like you could do all sorts.
I suppose you could actually have rather than you start the game, you could have the player role swapping. So as and when stuff happens in game, so it's not a continual, you are the player. It's stuff happens. Oh look, something's changed. Now you're one of the 3 gems. So you're not stuck in that role for the duration of the game. So it's like a shifting role thing.
So role swapping.
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of interesting.
That made 3 GMs sound better in my head right now.
There's more kind of, 3 people doing, rather than, I think, well, depending on what we come up with, but it may end up that GMs is perhaps not the correct term.
Yeah.
As they're probably not running the game so much as taking a particular role or something.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing the player role is probably going to have a fair amount of narrative control, rather than just you must
Never know.
dance for our amusement.
I don't want to over constrain things.
Some of this is undoubtedly going to change as soon as it hits actual discussion of what we're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's going to be one of those. I think we've got some stuff for some quite lively discussion.
Yeah.
So, do we want to do any? Is there any themes, like settings, like stuff like that you'd like in it? We've got spying so far. That's the rest of it's mostly been sort of almost like technologies of play.
So if we're thinking of using modern tech, is it perhaps easier just to say that's reflective of what's actually happening in the game? So even if it's not literally modern day, then you're in a magical society that has access to instantaneous or nearly instantaneous text messaging, for example.
So technology, so it's like mirrored in game.
Yeah, what you're doing in the game is fairly heavily reflective of what's happening in the thing, like that.
Yeah, I think the idea of mirroring what's happening, that's kind of nice.
It also means you're not kind of having to fudge things in the fiction layer of, if this is Middle Ages, how come everyone can talk immediately type.
Yeah, I like the idea of mirroring what's happening in and out of the game. That's pretty cool. There's a lot of scope to work with that. What do people think?
I was really skeptical on the 3 GMs sort of thing, but it keeps getting better in my mind. I think, we can actually pull this through.
Yeah.
I've actually had a really nice idea for a role play using 3 GMs against 1 player, but I'm loath to share it with you guys until you've recorded the episodes, because I want to see what you come up with. And then I'll send you my idea.
Yeah, we don't know who's going to be in the next arc yet, so we've still got to work that all out.
Oh yeah, recruit another player.
Well, we'll see. I think it's going to be a find out next time.
Can I just say it's been a pleasure to guest with you guys for these few episodes?
I mean, if you want to be on the next one, like, we're not going to say no. We're not going to stop you.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be viable, but definitely keep me on the shortlist for future guest spots. I've got way too much on in the next little while. It's been great fun joining you guys for these few episodes, but I think it's going to have to be an infrequent thing for me.
Yeah, it was always the idea was that we probably couldn't find people that would be able to do every arc. So it was kind of a thing from the start that we were probably going to have to sub people in and out. It's been.
But we had great fun though.
Yeah, it's been good playing with you.
Yeah, it's been really fun, gaming with you.
It's been a lot of fun. It has been a lot of fun.
So, what next?
So what are people? Do we have any plugs or any sort of shameless marketing things?
I've done mine. Look at the Shropshire DM on Facebook. Find me. Share me with your friends.
He's available for money.
All right. So another thing would be obviously subscribe to the channel on YouTube, like us on Facebook, follow us in every social media possible.
But we don't have all the social media.
I said possible. That's why I said possible.
Can I?
Create Roll on the Adventure social media pages and just hand them to these guys to run.
No, I don't know how to Twitter.
Nobody does. They all try to fake it till they make it.
Yeah.
Pinterest is totally the new thing now.
What, faking it till you make it? That's an old thing. I've been doing it for years.
No, Pinterest.
Oh, Pinterest.
Oh god, that keeps asking me for logins and doesn't let me save images.
Yeah, it's quite annoying. It's really useful, especially in my line of work. It's really useful, but yeah, it's kind of annoying. On most such social media that are on Facebook.
I don't know how many others have actually managed to get enough critical mass to be fully useful. There seems to be a lot of smaller, mini, fragmented ones.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's like once you've got that fragmentation, it means that the people that you want to talk to or want to interact with in that specific way aren't available on that platform.
Yeah, so apparently the Google one is really good for games development and has basically died for pretty much everything else.
I've not really been on it in ages.
Okay.
Joel, have you heard our Temporal Stereotype Zoo game arc?
I have not. This was.
This is the one from the previous arc.
Wait, yes, I think I've heard about this recently.
Yeah, it's the one from we did for the previous arc.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah. That explains why I've heard of it. Then, dear God, my memory is awful. Yes, in that case, I have recently. I heard some of you guys sharing your anecdotes as well. I think a couple of weeks ago while we were recording, and yeah, it sounds interesting. On that subject, a shameless plug, where can I download the PDF for that game?
Check on the Facebook page or go to YouTube and it's linked on the video.
Nice.
Yeah, so we will have the draft of the second draft of Primordia up shortly for you guys to peruse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also good to sort of give out a filled-in table of elements to use from our last game. We never got to make a name for that world, the world of the world of the singers and the snake people and the proud. I've already forgotten the names of the races. For fuck's sake, the goat man and
Illic.
The Illic.
Yes, the Illic. So what's the name of the world, you think?
Well, in the language of the singers, it was. Mm, but I don't think that's going to catch on.
No, I don't think so.
How would you spell it?
Like, yeah, I don't think the singers would have really called it anything. It's just here, you know.
Creation.
I can see the races having very different names for it.
I can also see them having very loud arguments about what to call it.
Yes.
Fair enough.
So, what would the Illic kind of go for? Do you think? How would they think of conceptualize this desert that they're in?
That's a difficult one because they conceive most of the world as flat space, being like oceans in between vertical cities. So that's an interesting one.
So what were you going for? As a name for the world?
I'm not certain. I don't know what they would call it. I think possibly the Expanse.
Okay, or the desert expanse or the sandy expanse or something. That's kind of cool.
Chris?
So considering my guys had schismed by the end, there was definite undertones of this isn't the way things should be.
Okay.
So you'd probably have a quasi-formal religious term of the broken sands or the waste, something like that, as well as kind of just a more pragmatic one of
the sands.
The sands or the wastes, and they probably have a lot of little niche terms to describe each individual village and so forth, as they were only just kind of adjusting to having higher forms of government than each tribal headman type thing.
But I'm thinking that their words don't have the sort of connotations of emptiness that the Illic's word, the Expanse, has.
At least not to start with. By the end of the period we covered, there probably was somewhat more of a negative of, something's gone wrong, this is not what it should be like, kind of thing. Especially with those that schismed off.
Yeah. Demetrius?
I'm struggling for the English word for... so when you build something, you put something under it to prime it. There's a word for it.
Foundations?
Yes. So I think that the snake people very focused on their own city and very inward thinking. They would think that the world is there just to support that city.
Oh, wow.
So everything else is the foundation, basically.
Oh, that's really cool. I love that idea.
Yeah.
That,
Oh, wow. It's nice, though, that, they've all got different takes on it.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because they were very different races that very clearly had different approaches to the world. Like the Illic were very clearly kind of a prey species.
Yeah.
They didn't have much in the way of anger. It was just no, screw this, bolt and get the hell out of there.
See, that was exactly what I was playing to, and I'm glad that you guys kind of recognise that we're people who eat grass and run away from things.
Yeah. I was trying to just play the singers as aloof, really, and not they just didn't get it. They're fine in the desert. They don't really need to worry. So they don't understand a lot of these threats and stuff like that. They don't understand why certain things are bad.
They very clearly came across as inorganic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think to me the singers were sort of ancient enough to feel like adults in a world populated by kids. And
very much so.
They didn't invest so much in the drama. They need what needed to be done, but at the same time didn't really get the emotional urges of the other races.
They don't have much of a sense of urgency.
Some things one can only accomplish with limbs.
Limbs are a mistake. Yeah, I think in the first game, we had a bit more of a unified outlook. I think the idea was that we were in like the races in the first game were in the war together.
Yeah.
That seemed to be very heavily implied. Yeah.
Well, I think it's explicitly stated that Aramed fought alongside Granny Stacks at some point.
Oh yeah.
Like very explicitly, and that was kind of why they were so like. I don't want to say cohesive because they weren't.
They trusted each other a lot more though.
Yeah.
They kind of got on and they were kind of known factors to each other. Whereas in the second one, like the singers were just these. Everybody else was like, we kind of, I guess, respect you, but you're a bit weird and alien.
Yeah.
Wait, these rocks talk?
The other thing is that we had like other like races that weren't part of the council in the first game, so the council became a unit within a bigger space, whereas we didn't have that in the second game. It's quite interesting that we've gone back to Primordia.
Yeah, well, it's just because I don't know if you've ever played Lovecraft-esque. It's a game where you basically create like a Lovecraft-esque story of somebody discovering horror or whatever. But it's another one where, because you're creating a story collectively, and then obviously it goes along one route. But it's quite interesting to sit down and talk about all of the, oh yeah, I put that in because I was thinking we could maybe do this. Because everyone has, there's, the canon story, I suppose, you actually create, but there's all the little twiddly bits of, I thought this would be kind of cool. Maybe if things had been different, we could have branched off and this would have happened.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. Because it's until like you get to sort of the final horror and stuff, you don't really know where this is going to go. And it can be hard to push an angle. You've just got to throw down some cool imagery and hope people pick up on it.
Yeah.
And it can be a little bit frustrating at times.
I don't know. I think we as experienced GMs and role players, I think we rolled along quite nicely with it, given the fact that we're doing this entirely by voice. I think it'd be easier face-to-face.
Oh, Primordia.
But this is part of why I say I'm curious to see it dumped in front of a bunch of new people.
Well, dump it in front of a bunch of new people then.
Yeah.
Fine, then, I will.
Because there was always the danger that somebody will be going off on a tangent and everybody else has completely different thoughts or ideas of where things should go than that one person, and it potentially gets a bit frustrating and irritating.
Somebody's going to throw in the unicorns.
In the Lovecraft-esque game I did at Expo, we had like the other problem that nobody ended up with a strong like thrust of where it was going, and so it just built and
so everyone was kind of being too polite, like when nobody can agree on a restaurant to go to, so you just end up dithering for hours,
and then just getting takeaway.
Yeah.
Although it did come together in the end. Still, even after the game, I've got no idea what happened. It went from the scenario that I'd written, I did it was a London stockbroker, London architect.
Okay.
And there was a couple of like custom cards, and it all ended up being about these paintings, like one of which was burnt, like everything was on fire in the painting, and one of which was like not. And everyone thought there was just one painting, and it was just very, very strange. But yeah, no one really. It started off so slowly. It was just Solomon's bad day, pretty much. It was like this.
He woke up late, then his train was cancelled.
Well, he got to the office to find a policeman waiting for him because there'd been the painting had been stolen. And they'd found his car at the building. And they were like, where were you last night? Why were you there? And he hadn't been there. And it just got strange. It just got just like a lot of him getting hassled by the police and stuff. And him getting like stressed out, and like him like missing a lunch meeting with a friend and stuff like that. And just having a bit of a crap day. Getting forgetting his umbrella and getting rained on and stuff like that, and it just spiraled out of control. just completely by the end of it. It was like, so the like one of the last scenes is just him sort of like proper like hopped up on cocaine, like charging across the Thames, like in his car to get to this building, to get to this party that he really doesn't want to go to, but feels like he has to because that's part of the mystery. It's pretty weird, and it just, like I say, it just got out of hand and just got very, very strange. It's fun though. Yeah, it is a good game to play. But again, you do get that that frustration sometimes when if you're trying to push something. I mean, I was explicitly trying not to push anything because I felt it'd be a bit wrong as both the facilitator and the guy who wrote the scenario. I felt
yeah.
It'd be a bit too much control for one person. It's kind of like not in the spirit of the game.
Yeah.
Whereas with Microscope, I was a lot happier just pushing certain like ideas that I was trying to get on the table, you know?
I think Microsoft has the sort of checks and balances for everyone to have equal input in the game. I think it manages the table very well.
Yeah.
As well as the game.
Yeah, it's hard to completely reinterpret something.
Microsoft's quite good at avoiding the thing where somebody just kind of ends up being de facto in charge of the plot because everybody gets a turn where everyone else has to shut up.
Yeah. Although we ended up with some interesting choices for focus. Yeah, the focus thing is quite nice because it does mean you can sort of push it to focus on one thing. You can go, we need more material in this area. Here's what we're doing. And that's kind of nice. Whereas Lovecraft-esque doesn't have that.
I'm quite intrigued about Lovecraft-esque right now. Check it out.
Yeah, we'll have to play it at some point.
Yeah.
Definitely want to try that and a Microscope at some point because that's one I've honestly never played.
Oh, well, I'll have it at Ame.
Brilliant.
I'll have Lovecraft-esque, yeah.
Yeah. I'll probably have Lovecraft-esque as well, but I'll bring Microscope.
Yeah.
Definitely. We might get a game of it. Would be fun to do.
Certainly try. We keep making these bold claims of plans and games and things at conventions, and so often they fall through.
Yeah.
Well, considering me and Purple are going to be in the games room for most of the con, I'm sure you can find us.
I'll certainly know where to find you.
It's just, will you remember?
I'll definitely remember.
I can see us recording a Microscope game as a filler episode for some, if something happens very, very urgently, we can just have an episode ready so we can sort it out this way.
Oh God, that could be a horror to edit.
You just want some online thing to track all the cards because normally, obviously, that's physically in front of you.
Yeah.
But yeah, as long as you've got that, you can keep track of what's going on.
I mean, there's probably a way you can like note it in like a Google Docs or Google Sheets or something like that.
Yeah, Google Sheets is fine, I think.
I mean, just probably better solutions for sort of nested items, but I don't know. Off the top of my head, spreadsheets just seems like the easiest one because you can just insert in. Like, if you insert a new period, then you can just insert a new column. And if you want to put something before an event, you can just insert a new row. And if you want to ask a question about a scene, you can just type it into the cell. That could work. Anyway, enough random musing. Yeah, and I think that's all we've got time for today. So thanks for listening. We've been Roll on the Adventure, and next time we're going to be creating an entirely new game. Possibly involving such wonderful things as spying, partitioning of people, juxtaposition, multiple gems, technology, one versus many, role swapping, and mirroring like what's happening in the game with what's happening outside the game. So the actualities of play mirroring the fiction, which sounds really interesting. Is there anything you guys are particularly interested to see?
I'm really looking forward to see how this 3 versus 1 is going to work.
Yeah.
So I'm actually, it's building inside me.
Cool. Joel?
I'm just curious to see what you guys come up with. I will definitely be listening because I am going to very quickly write down the idea that I have had and hold on to it until you've recorded.
Oh, compare the two.
Take a picture of it next to a newspaper.
Yeah, it's not going to fit in all of the themes, but it's going to fit like quite a few of them in.
I think we should just drag you in for the postmortem so we can do a compare and contrast.
Yeah, I'm interested to seeing what we come up with in the actual practicalities of having the multiple roles or people and how you would deal with if it's secret information or not. Because, as I mentioned before, if it's online, it's easy enough to mute people, but when you're physically round a table, endlessly sending some people out of the room and some people in the room and stuff.
I think that's where the technology is really going to be key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, join us next time for that on Roll on the Adventure. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.